what's going on? It is Jason. Whoop whoop. Ariga. Let me not have that view. Sorry, I'm running something new, guys. We're just gonna give this. There we go. What's going on? It is Jason. Ariga, that's a mighty good coup pack. Well, I'm super excited because I'm doing something different. Like I am trying to try something different just to spice things up a little bit. I want to start building good community and healthy community with other creators. And I had this idea for a long time called the Humble Dose. I got my little humble bumblebee up there in the corner as my logo, but yeah, this thing has been brewing inside of me for, that sounds terrible, but it's been brewing inside of me for quite some time. And now it's starting to come to fruition. And it all sparked because this gentleman that I'm about to bring on, David, kind of sparked it for me. He's like, hey man, I'm excited. I would love the opportunity to maybe come on your YouTube live. And I was like, heck yeah, let's give this a shot. I have this idea. So I'm kind of building it and putting it into fruition. And David is my first guest. So I'm excited. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. And I'm just going to bring him up. I'm trying this new platform. I don't know how well it's going to work, but we're giving it a shot. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys to David. Let's go.
Whoop, whoop. What's up, y'all?
Hopefully it's working, man. I don't know if it's working, but
I'll check. Hang on one second. I got my other computer going and it's delayed. Let me see. Yeah, dude, it's working.
We're figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. All right. I'm going to hop on here with you, man. How's it going, dude?
Oh, dude, look at that. I got the split screen happening. I can see it. That's killer, man. What's going on, brother?
Yeah. It's going good, man. How was your 4th?
You know, the 4th was nice. We had just spent the day up with some family in the East Mountains here east of Albuquerque and avoided the where I live. It's like it's colloquial called the war zone, and it was kind of like that last night. It was fireworks till 1 a.m. and the dog was freaked out, and so I'm sure everybody knows what that's like that has a dog.
I'm not laughing at your misfortunes with the dog, but we're watching my in-laws' dog right now, and it was convenient that they went out of town on the 4th during this time. They're in Hawaii right now, enjoying Hawaii, and we're sitting here. The dog is nonstop, and it's a little yelper dog, man. It's just like yep. Every little pop or noise it made, it was just freaking out. And then our dog, who doesn't bark much, started barking too. So it was a night full of barking. So, but
funny, man.
For me, we went over to my wife. So I have small kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it's hard to find community for them, because my wife is busy, I'm busy, but we have to be intentional about it and force ourselves to go make friends with other people who have kids around the same age. And it puts me in an awkward position because all my friends have no kids. Pretty most of my friends do not have kids. So I'm leaning heavy on my wife. So she's made friends and she's like, hey, let's go hang out with them on the 4th. They invited us over. And now I'm put in a position to awkwardly make small talk with the wife's husband or something. I don't know how to do this. I'm 50 years old. I'm not sure how to do it. So I'm just like, it just is awkward, man. I don't know if you ever been in those situations, but.
Yeah, I get, I can do small talk pretty well. Usually I just try to find out, how it is with dudes. Like dudes were always like, hey man, what do you do? And it's like, as soon as you know what they do, like for me, it's like a quick, okay, I know something about that topic. So I'll just ask them questions and lead them down the roads I'm familiar with to ask more questions. But sometimes they'll tell me something that I know nothing about, like, whatever. I'm an insurance broker. It's like, oh yeah, well, what's that like? Just getting them talking,
actually, You think I would be better at it because I interview people all the time, but I'm not good at it, and I'm kind of terrible at it. a lot of times I leave it up to my producer on some of my shoots to ask the questions just because I can be awkward at times. But so, yeah, so the history of you and I, like, we have been like following each other on LinkedIn for quite some time. And we've been like admiring each other's work. Well, I've been admiring your work. I don't know if you
It's
admire my work.
mutual. I do, man. It's mutual.
So for me, it's like, oh, it's like one of these another weird scenario because it's like a parasocial type relationship because you think you know the person, but you really don't. So other than like 2 weeks ago when we actually connected for the first time, I mean, I didn't really know much about you, but during that, time that we shared, about an hour, 45 minutes, I got to like listen to a little bit of your story. And it excites me, man, because you're in kind of the same field that I'm in, and where you're like out there working with clients, doing photography and videography. And for the most part, in nonprofits, I'm assuming too, are a lot of your clients and stuff at Core Visuals. Yeah, I'm thinking it's nonprofits. And well, how about you tell me instead of me trying to guess? You're here. Why don't you give me a little bit of the history of what it is that you've got started in this creative field that we're in together?
Yeah, cool, man. Well, currently, yeah, it's Core Visual. We have a hyphen in the middle of Core and Visual because the word Core Visual, we couldn't get a .com, so it's core-visual.com and our
Nice.
YouTube links and all that. I have a business partner, Trevor Clancy, and he's just like the greatest dude in the world, best business partner I could ever ask for. And we have, we both live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We have home offices. We don't have a studio because almost entirely our work is location work. I mean, it's very rare we would ever need a studio to shoot like still life or product stuff. That happens very rarely, but most of our work's not even in New Mexico. Like, we're usually traveling. We get booked to go all over the country to do mostly large civil infrastructure projects, highways, roads, bridges, tunnels, airports, power plants, wastewater treatment plants. And I think that's how I probably, like, the algorithm of LinkedIn probably figured out that because you do similar work too, that's how we, we're able to connect. And so that's kind of our main thrust. We do a lot of ad agency work too. So we're shooting commercials for healthcare or car commercial stuff, and we do have a lot of nonprofit and school work for local New Mexico community stuff too. So yeah, it's mostly video production and still photography. It's really both. And we've been in business together for 9 years this summer, and
Awesome.
it's just, it's still going. So I'm grateful.
Dude, that is awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy and love your work, man. It's solid. You
Thanks,
definitely
brother.
have a lot of intention in what you're doing, and I can tell in just how your interview setups are. And then when you go to the edit, I can see that you really piece together a really powerful story. So, yeah, man, I'm
Thanks, man. Likewise.
extremely well. Thank you. I think one of the stories that I want to talk about, if you don't mind sharing, is when you were talking about how you got started in this creative world. Like, what was it that inspired you and motivated you to go down this path?
Yeah, man. I mean, that goes way back. So I'm 56, so I'm a little older than you. I was born in 1970. And I remember when the movie Star Wars came out in the movie theaters in 1977, and seeing that as a 7-year-old kid, watching that movie on a big screen at a drive-through and in a theater. I think I probably saw it a half a dozen times in those days. And it just blew me away. It was just like, it was such a visual spectacle. I mean, I had seen television and movies, and I was always very visually driven, but Star Wars just blew my mind. And then, maybe 2-3 years later on PBS, there would be like these documentary shows about like how they did that. And, Phil Tippett and the puppets and like stop motion, and then going back in time and Jason of the Argonauts and all these like stop
Yeah.
motion movies. And just learning that there was a technical side to it, I was so fascinated. Like, I want to do that. Like, I want to make movies. And my dad, he had been in the Air Force. He was a navigator, radar intercept officer, the guy who sat in the back seat of the F4. And
Nice.
he had a Yashica 8mm film camera that would have like a 3-minute or a 5-minute roll. And this camera, I still have it. I don't have it in the room, but I still have the camera. And it had a place where you could screw in a cable release and then shoot one frame at a time. So I could do stop motion. And so I learned I put on a tripod and a light, and just the exposure was kind of automatic. And I just like little model cars, like, okay, click and then click and like get the car skidding. And then I'd put like, charcoal markers on the ground, making it look like skid marks, and just these visual, really crude, animations. And then later making films and buying a little editor and splicing it together. And I always loved the look of film. And then, maybe when I was, I don't know, 11 or so, the camcorder, like the personal camcorder, came out. But I hated how it looked. It looked like a soap opera. It has that hyper real 30 frame a second. Like it's too fluid. And so I felt, just like that doesn't look right. And it would take all the way up until, 2012 and the Canon 5D Mark II, which could shoot 24 frame a second at 1080p. And it was the first time digital looked like cinema. And that was the moment that I was just like, this is what I have waited my whole life for, is to see that look, that it looks like a movie. It doesn't look like a soap opera. So yeah, that's the genesis of how I got into it.
That is. And then oops, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, from there, like I had took a high school photo class, darkroom, and then my mother worked at the Chamber of Commerce in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been in New Mexico for 30 years, but I was 20 years there, and born in Georgia anyway. But the photo lab, taught me the chemistry side of it, and processing film and printing, and I got exposure to a lot of high-end commercial photographers, some of the greats of Las Vegas, Larry Hannah, Wesley Miles, Jerry Metellus, these great photographers of that, Greg Preston. There were quite a few. Anyway, and getting to like watch them work and work alongside them, I freelance assisted for a number of years. And I just got so into that stills game that I kind of, until the Canon came around in 2012, I just gave up on movies and moved into stills. So that was my thing with stills, and we would shoot all kinds of commercial work. So in Vegas, it could be anything. It could be a Mike Tyson fight. It could be catalog work. It could be a casino, shooting the rooms and the suites and the people, and they're in the restaurant, and like every hotel casino when they open would have like, we need shots of the suites and the poker table and the 21 and this and that. And so we were just busy all the time, and it was just a grind, and I loved it, man. I loved it. I was mostly an assistant, to be honest. I mean, I would shoot, but I mean, mostly I was there like schlepping gear. And, back then, nothing was really that wireless, so you'd have like your tripod, your camera, and then the cable release going to the power pack, and then the power pack connected to the strobes and the light stands, and you'd have your soft boxes and your grids or whatever. And so, yeah, man, that was really, it's been a long career, 38 years now so far. So yeah. And here I am just still doing it. It's crazy.
No, that is impressive, man. Anybody who's ever worked with film and been on that journey with film, yeah, high admiration for those individuals. I wasn't brave enough to go down that route. I mean, minus the digital high eights, because that's kind of how I got started, is with one of those Sony digital eights, the high 8 tapes. And I would actually take 2 VCRs, a CD player, a tape deck, and then use those red and yellow audio cables from there. And that's how I'd splice in my cuts and my audio from the CD player. And I was making these like highlight reels for friends, whether we're snowboarding or snow machining. I think I did like my first, I guess, paid work was cutting together a highlight reel for this guy going to college to play basketball. And so I kind of cut that together for him with some really, amped up music that I didn't get licensed for, any of that stuff, And just cut it together for him. And I think that was my first like paid gig that I did. But yeah, as a kid, I would make little stop animation type videos as well. I remember I used 2 pieces of fruit. I think it was like an apple and a pear, and I had them fighting. and then they like collided and they turned into an orange. I think that's I'd have to ask my dad if he remembered that, because he talks to me about it all the time when I was a kid. But yeah, I just fell in love with it, man. And I think the reason why I connected so much with it is because it sparked an emotional reaction from other people, which did something to me internally. You know, when I did a wedding video, or I did a family video, or I did a video for the girl I was dating at the time, and I'm like piecing together a love story of sorts, and whatever like emotional connection that they had to it, and then they conveyed it back to me, like fired me up, man. I got like a high from it, man. I just got, you know, the dopamine hit of like good feelings, and I was like, I want to do this the rest of my life. But I didn't. You know, I kind of stopped. You know, went and joined the Air Force, did the Air Force route for 21 years, and then, like you said, when Canon started to come out with the DSLRs, that's kind of when I got back into the game, and, you know, started doing everything was a lot more affordable to like indie stuff that I was doing, you know, the editing systems, all digital, you know, the cameras, all digital. And yeah, it just made my life so much easier. So I tip my hat to you, man, for starting your journey in film. So that's so cool.
Yeah, I think about how many years of my life I've probably shaved off from dunking my hands in some of that chemistry. You know, the when I started it, I was in the black and white dark room because that skill was something I learned in a high school, like, you know, extra credit class. And so I knew the very basics of, like, you know, a developer, a stop bath, a fixer, and that's it. And then I remember I got a job. My mom got me a job at this lab in Vegas at the time called Photo Finish. This was in 1988. It's not around anymore, but she knew the owners and or one of the owners, and so she got me a job there. And I was 18 years old, right out of high school, and they were like, "Can you do any, you know, black and white?" I was like, "Yeah, I can do that." So I was learning, and I used to walk by the color lab where they would run the color film, and it was like the dankest, most humid, nasty, like, ugh, like that would suck to work in that room. And that's of course where they put me next, you know. And it was just, but it was like, I can't even describe the experience, because the difference, people have a vision of like a dark room, they think of a red safe light, right? Like, because
Right,
in a black and white lab and running print, you can run a safe light. You can't do it with film, but you can do it with print. But when you're running film, whether it's black and white or color film, there's zero light, like absolute darkness. So when you are doing that, it gets to be very intense when you're introduced to, you know, and this is hand rolling on stainless steel reels, you know, 35 millimeter film, 120 film, 4x5 sheets, 8x10 sheets of film, and then running it through a chemical process that is not just a developer and a stop bath and a fixer. It's like a developer, a wash, a reversal, a color developer, a bleach, and then there was one other one that I don't even remember anymore, and a conditioner, a fixer, and just it was a much more complicated process. But it taught me so many skills. Probably the most interesting one is like learning how to move in the dark. Yeah. Because you would be dark for a really long time, because and how to organize things in total darkness, because before you turn the lights off, you kind of got to know, okay, here's all this film that I have to process. I have several different kinds. Here are my reels, or my sheet holders for this that are going to go into this apparatus that I have to dunk into these 3.5 gallon containers of fluid that are all 100.4 degrees exactly. There's a water bath in there to keep it all the same temperature. The door is locked. Nobody's coming in. No lights are coming on. And I would just zone into this. And the only thing you could see barely was like the phosphorus, coated hands of the clock and the numbers, barely visible in the dark. And that was just your guide. It's like, okay, I have to be in this solution for 30 seconds. And then I got to move over here. And then I got to agitate this by hand and then move it over there. And it took about an hour to run an E6, which is a color transparency, and a little less time to run a C41, which was the color negative. So two different sets of chemistry, shorter deal for the C41. And anyway, man, that whole experience just really just kind of, I loved it. I thought I would hate it, and I loved it. So anyway, I won't digress on that too much, but yeah.
No, man. Thanks for sharing that too,
Yeah.
because I was watching a YouTuber that, well, he's a filmmaker. He does YouTube, but he is generally a filmmaker, and his name's Danny Gevirtz, and he just did a recent music video using a film camera, and he was showing this apparatus that he actually had to like load the film in a dark container basically, so it's like muscle memory. He's like trying to like remember how the film goes in, make sure he doesn't load it backwards, or and make sure he extends the film out to the right length. And it's just like, man, I wish I had, well, I do have the ability to do it, but I just don't know if I have the motivation or the drive to kind of take that, because I wouldn't even know, like, for most part, how to expose this stuff properly, and I would feel like I would overexpose everything, and shooting on film is just so dang expensive, so I just
Yeah,
don't know if
man.
I have the guts to do it, but I want to. It's more of a like I want than anything. So
Yeah, we, back in those days, we would shoot Polaroids because so, you know, in Vegas at that time, mostly like when I worked with Larry Hanna, and he's still working, man. That dude's in his 80s and he's still
that's
shooting.
crazy.
He's an amazing guy and just a great dude. But he would shoot on a Mamiya RB67. So, the camera's like a box with a mirror and a lever that puts the mirror down. And then there's a lens that has the shutter built in. And there's, they were so much simpler then. They were like, you really only had a range of f-stops that didn't have all the different, point this and point that we have today. And the shutter speeds
Right.
were pretty limited. You didn't have these crazy high shutter speeds. And then the film was you would load the film by hand in the film back. And so you would, tear the little piece of paper and then wind the paper around here and then spool it up to where you got these arrows and then put it back in the light trap and close that and then spool it up to where the first frame was loaded. And there'd be a dark slide and that goes on the back and it's mechanical and you would shove this little clip in and then you'd pull the dark slide. If you didn't remember to pull the dark slide, you'd be shooting nothing, right? Because you're not exposing your film. And so you had to remember to pull the dark slide and, advance the film or you're going to double expose your film. And you'd only get 12 frames on a roll on an RB67. And you're shooting color transparency. So like you really need to nail the exposure. So before you would shoot that, you would put on what we called a Polaroid back. And the Polaroid back was like Polaroid film, but it was not like a typical click camera. It was a back you'd put on, you'd pull a dark slide, you'd expose it. And then there was a little tab you would pull, and then that would release a second tab. And that second tab had a chemistry pack that you would then pull through these rollers and it would slide across the film. And you'd sit there and wait I think it was like 30 seconds for black and white and a minute for color. And you would peel it off and there's your image. And it shows you pretty dang close to what the exposure is going to be for that ISO of film, if it's a 100 or whatever.
Right.
And you would discern from that, like, okay, my exposure, maybe I stop down a half stop or I turn this power down a little on this light or whatever. And then the focus, of course, was all manual then. So you had to like look through and like focus manually and you get 12 stabs at this on one roll. And one roll of one scene was considered a minimum. You'd maybe do 2 and that's plenty. And somewhere in there, of 24 frames, you're going to get one that works, right? Or at least you hope.
Right.
And it's just like nowadays, you just sit there, you shoot a gazillion frames. And I mean, the latitude we have today is crazy compared to what it was like then. Then it really did feel a lot more like, we really don't have a lot of opportunities to get this right. So let's get this right. And you were very careful. And anyway, man.
Dude, I appreciate that. And I have mad respect for that process. Now, were these like medium format cameras or are they just, yeah?
Yeah, the Mamiyas were medium. And then we would shoot 4x5 for anything architectural, especially because you want the cool thing about a 4x5 camera is, the film plane and the lens plane are totally isolated from each other. And there's a bellows between them. So you could get the camera perfectly vertical. We had literally like a level, like, okay, it's level this way. It's level this way. It's level this way. Now I'm not looking at I'm seeing too low of the building. So to see the building, I would just loosen the frame rail for the lens board and lift it up. And it was like, And when you're doing this, you have a dark cloth over your head, over the back of the camera. You're looking at the ground glass, and what you're seeing is upside down and backwards because there is no prism for the light to move through. You're just getting straight from lens to the back of the film. And so you have to kind of imagine as you're composing your shot, like, okay, you're thinking in backwards, upside down, which interestingly is what your eyeball does, right? It's the human brain that reorients the visuals
Right.
of that, the optics.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then you would shoot a Polaroid, same thing with a 4x5. You'd load in the 4x5 Polaroid holder, shoot a Polaroid, look at it and go. And this was so cool, Jason. So there was a Polaroid called Type 55 that was positive and negative. So when you peeled it off, you had a positive that gave you your exposure, but then there was a negative. And you would take the negative and you would take a magnifying loupe and you'd hold it up to a sun, anything bright, and just look at it and see if you're sharp. And you could check your focus, because when you focus a 4x5, you would put the magnifier on the ground glass and move the focus in and out until it looked sharp. And then you could double check it on your film, and then you would know, okay, I'm in focus. And then you'd shoot, typically on a color transparency, you'd typically shoot 3 pieces of film. One where you think it's exposed right, and then one where it's a half stop over, and one where it's a half stop under. And you just run all 3 on the idea that one of those is going to be right, Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's how we did it back then. It's wild.
It's kind of like bracketing, right? When you do
exactly what it is, bracketing.
That's crazy. Yeah. I want to get my hands on a film camera. I know a couple guys here that shoot on film, but yeah, I don't know if I'm brave enough to shoot video on film because I heard it's really expensive. And I I do a lot by trial and error, kind of like we're doing this, this podcast right now. It's just like, well, hope this works and see if it works. But I don't know. I'd be too scared, but I got to put that aside and just go for it and give it a shot and try to shoot something on film. But I think I first have to shoot a short I don't know if I have the guts to shoot a feature, but definitely a short digitally, and then work backwards from there and see if I can do it on film. Because I really love the film look. It just looks so amazing for video side. Even film photography looks amazing. So yeah,
it's funny, man, because to me, once digital came around, I never wanted to go back to film. I still don't. My son, I have a son. I have 3 kids, but my oldest son is a photographer. His name is Riley Russell, great photographer. And he had a period, I don't know if he's still doing this, but he had a period where he wanted to shoot on film too. And I was like, why in the world would you want to do that? Like, to spend the money? And I'm like, wait a minute, you're the young generation. Don't you know that it's very environmentally unfriendly? Like the nasty chemistry you got to use to develop film. But the young kids, and there's some great shooters. This guy, Chell Gerber on LinkedIn. I don't know if you follow him, man. Great young guy, great shooter. He likes to shoot film sometimes too. And I admire that the kids are doing that. It's funny to be old enough to say the kids these days, they want to shoot film. What are they thinking? But
you're probably like, no, I never want to shoot film again.
No, never again.
So is there a project or an event that you did that you hold a lot of admiration for, or a shot that you took on film that you kind of were like, oh, this one's going to sit in the memory banks for a while?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, so many. I'll tell you about the one that was the biggest nightmare though.
That would be
I had one real nightmare. So it was a studio shoot in Las Vegas. I was probably, I don't know, 19 or 20 years old. So just young and given a real shot to do this rather large production shoot, under some supervision, but really and basically it was a promotion for a casino for their Halloween thing. And they wanted a witch flying through the air on a broom.
Oh boy.
And this is before the days of Photoshop, and back then they would have something called Cytex that would cost like $300 an hour if you were going to do any retouching. So they wanted something that could really pull off and so we had built up, like a ladder that she'd be sitting on, and like her dress would hide that. And the way I wanted it lit was, I thought, okay, I want to like kind of monster light it, So what I did was I had maybe, I don't know, at least 9, maybe 10 strobes. It was a big shoot in a studio. And and every strobe had like a grid. And so, you know, the light for the face is from underneath. And so the shadows are going up and she's kind of, and a backlight for the hat, a backlight for the, you know, so it was really rim lit. It looked like the moon was lighting it, right? Like it was really cool looking.
Cool. Yeah.
And I'm all ready to go. And I shot my film. I shot color transparency, color negative. The Polaroid looked amazing. I thought this is going to be so awesome. And then I ran the film too, because I was the lab, you know, person too. So I ran my film, and I'm looking at the film out of, you know, I'm looking at the transparencies as soon as they're out of the water, I'm looking at them, and every single frame looks amazing except her face is pitch black. There's zero detail. That strobe never once fired after my Polaroid. And I never took a second Polaroid to check. And I was just freaking out. And then I ran the color negative, same thing. I lost the whole shoot. The whole shoot was a wash because you could never see her face. And there was no way to go create one or drop one in back then. And so, and they had hired like one of the greatest makeup artists in Vegas with prosthetics. I mean, it cost a fortune to do this shoot. And I screwed it up. Man. And I was just mortified, Jason. I was just like, my life's over. My career's over. And telling Larry that, you know, having to show Larry the film, and him, you know, and he just kind of, you know, he's like, dang, man, that's not good. You know, and we had to reshoot that. And it came out okay. But it wasn't as cool as the first time. And everybody that was there that had to do it again, it's like, you're just cringing, right? It's like, there's the makeup artist, there's the clothes stylist, there's the model. It's like, yeah, we're all here because David Murphy screwed up and didn't check his second Polaroid. And I remember racking my brain thinking, what happened? What went wrong? And I think my theory is that back then, you know, and to a degree now too, but if like a strobe is on one power pack, you would rely on the ambient burst of light to you know, it's not, the colloquial name was a slave, right? A little optical unit with two prongs that went into the power pack that would slave it. And so when this strobe goes off, this strobe goes off. And I think somebody moved in the room and stood in front of the power pack and blocked that slave unit so that it never picked up the burst. And so that one light on the face never fired. Like if any other light had failed, I might have been okay. But that one was the one that never fired. And so
the money maker. Yeah,
dude. Yeah. And then of course that was on film, and, you know, oh man, just so many cool film shoots, too many to recount. And I don't have a lot of that work up. Like it's not really, people don't see it that much. I got a few pictures around my office of things, but, I don't know. There was a time when I could remember everything I ever shot, and now I'm like so old and it's been so long. It's like I look at stuff Trevor and I shot, and I'm like, I have no idea if he shot that or if one of us shot it. You know, I remember being there, and it's like I don't even care anymore, like who shot what. So, but yeah, that's one story.
No, that's yeah. I mean, I can't recall that I lost footage before, so that was a lesson learned. But I never shot film, and but I have lost footage for this huge project that I was working on. And it was for, basically they were trying to get donation money, and they only had a window of opportunity to present a video for the donation piece. And I was pressed on time, and I'm like shooting with the client, working with them, trying to get the video done. It took me a while to edit it to piece the story together. And then I had a drive poop out on me. So I lost all the footage. And unfortunately, we pushed it to the timeline where they had to submit. And unfortunately, they weren't able to submit anything. And I just, that kind of weighed on me a little bit. That's
rough, man.
And I wasn't able to, I mean, I can't do anything to fix it. Like it was just, you know, other than give them their money back, which was understandable. Like I wasn't going to argue about that. And, you know, but on top of it, I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, so
that's rough.
Having drives fail is terrible. I recently just had it happen to me again. it's kind of the same thing. I'm working with this buddy of mine. It was more of a homie hookup. I still feel bad about it because I don't want to be that guy that comes with excuses. But I was like, I literally lost, and I actually sent the drive off to get fixed, and it cost a little bit of money, but I got all the footage back, which was remarkable. I've never had success with that ever, trying to recover footage, but I actually sent it off to a company. They got the footage recovered for me, and I'm able.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's been so long, but it's all jumbled. Like I have to, and I had other client stuff on there too. So it's like a hodgepodge of all my work on this drive, and some of it's there. I don't know if all of it's there. So I'm kind of like reorganizing it right now. But yeah, so I had to approach them too and be like, but he's a homie and he understood, and he was, it's more for like his soccer team, his kids' soccer team. We were like second in the nation or something for that age group. And it's pretty impressive, but they're trying to like, same thing. They're trying to raise money to help support these kids who can't financially afford to go to these tournaments. So they're using, an opportunity to use media to kind of help them raise funds to send these kids, because they always hate when a kid says I can't go because I can't afford it type thing. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude, I lose sleep over the thought of footage being, so like our typical workflow for me, almost everything we do is on location, and we're usually not in town. So I will bring, my laptop. I will have 2 external hard drives. We have all our SD cards. And then so like every single day, sometimes even during the day, depending on what's going on, at the end of every day, I download everything onto one drive. And then while I get ready to go to sleep or whatever, I start to copy it over to the second hard drive. And then we don't format the cards if we don't have to. I mean, in the old days when the cards didn't hold as much data, now we have these massive cards that'll hold a whole shoot on one card or whatever. But
Right.
So it's like kind of in 3 places, right? Like it's on the cards, it's on 2 drives. And then before we get back on the airplane, it's like, you take a drive, Trevor, and I'll take a drive. Yep. And they're in the cameras. And so one of us ought to make it home with footage. And then getting it home and then like downloading it and dumping it onto a big external hard drive and then backing that up. It's just like, and the audio too, you know how it is like when you're recording audio on a separate device and like, don't forget the audio. And I do a ton of the interview process myself, where I have the headphones on and I'm listening to the boom mic and I'm set up and I'm watching the recorder. And I don't know about you, but it's funny. Like I'm so hyper fixated on the audio recording at all. It's like, is the red light on? Is it, is this thing recording? And I don't know what this person is saying. I have no idea what they're saying. Like, and I'm asking questions and I'm kind of like half in this paying attention mode to them, but mostly like, and then I'm constantly asking you, both cameras are running, right? 24 frames. Okay. I'm so absolutely paying attention to that it's not until I get back and I listen to the interview that I really get to hear what they said. And it's always like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Like that storytelling part that comes later. It's like,
yeah,
I don't have no clue what it's going to be till I sit down and hear it, because it's like I've never heard it before in a way, because I'm so not able to pay attention to that, what they're saying, as much as I'd like to. So I don't know. Is that like that for you? Are you working alone? Are you with somebody? How do you do it?
I don't. There's some, based on budget, client's budget, whether or not we have multiple people on the shoot. But there's been times where I've been alone. I got to ask questions. A lot of times what I try to do is lean on somebody who knows the client or within the client's wheelhouse to have them ask the questions. We'll prep the questions before. They will, go over the questions. They'll send it to the people that we're interviewing, and we'll go through that, because I can't multitask like that. Like I got to be like razor focused on making sure that, cam's is good, audio's good. Like I'm sitting here because, I've had some issues where I've messed up audio, and it's so frustrating. And it's like, because I wasn't, I wasn't monitoring appropriately, or I'm too focused on what the cameras look like, and I'm not paying attention to the audio. And I'm just like, I can probably do both those. It would be nice to have an audio guy, but we're the audio guys for our team. But so I'm making sure now, like, that's why I love our Rode system that we have for wireless labs. To me, they sound great. and they do internal 32-bit float recording. So there's a backup. So I'm always covered in that arena where I don't, blow out the music or the audio. And, but I think the important piece is making sure that I'm monitoring that as well, because we did have issues where the lav cable wasn't plugged in all the way on the Rhodes, and it didn't record anything, and it was just and I'm just like, oh. But we always have a shotgun on hand, at least on the camera. But then, like, I hate delivering on cam audio to a client. It's just like drives me nuts. But yeah. I mean, definitely I would suck to have to like multitask like that, and I just don't know if my brain works like that, where I'm able to like balance all those things, stay present with the client or the person that you're interviewing, and make sure that everything is just, that would be stressful. It's like shooting a wedding, man. It'd be super stressful. So.
Yeah, I refuse to do weddings for that reason. It's too much stress. The interview stuff for us, I mean, I do pay attention to what they're saying, but I also, for me, like, I don't know how you have this in your creative workflow at all, but we typically are the ones doing the interviewing. There's nobody else in that loop typically. So sometimes the client will send us like, we want you to cover, like, ask them these questions. Sometimes it's like, ask them these very specific questions, but most of the time it's like, just whatever, like, you're just going to interview this person. And so I have a pretty standard routine that I go through. And it's, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's so funny, man. I would say more than half of the times that we're shooting anybody for an interview, the first thing I ask them before we even sit down is like, I'm like, do you know what this is for? And more than half the time they're like, I have no idea what this is for. I don't know what I'm doing here. And I'm like, okay, so no one told you that we're doing a video? They're like, nope. I'm like, okay, well, let me just give you the high level view. And sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good, man. I was just cracking up because the first question that we ask them is, what did you have for breakfast? That's like the first thing we ask.
Dude, I ask same thing. When I'm sitting down, and that's always checking the audio. Hey, what would you have for breakfast? That's so funny.
And 80% of the time, they don't eat breakfast.
Right? Yeah, no doubt.
And I wanted to put this montage together of like them saying nothing, like, because we have so much footage of them saying, "Oh, we didn't eat anything for breakfast. We had coffee. That's what we ate for breakfast."
Dude, that's so funny. That's so true. I know. Every time I'm always amazed. Like, you don't eat breakfast? Oh my gosh! But getting them to like, I'll say, if they don't know what we're even doing there, I'll say, okay, well, we're doing this video and it's probably only gonna be 3 minutes long. And you're one of like maybe 5 people in the video. So we're only gonna see you for like 20 seconds, if that. And they're just, you can see the relief come on. I'm like, oh, thank God. And I'm like, and you don't even have to say it perfectly because I'm gonna be editing this and I'll take out any mistakes. And if you say something that you think is bad, just tell me and I'll know. And you can just see them relax. Because, and then, so the other thing is that, like, by my own rule, I never give anybody the questions in advance. Like, I just don't.
Ooh,
it's like,
that's actually,
it's like, I just, because I think what happens, and I would do it too, is you tend to like perseverate on like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And you're in the shower rehearsing. And then when it comes time to answer the question, you're like, oh, I had a great answer last night. But if they don't know what's coming, they're more prone, like kind of like you and I are doing right now. Like when we met 2 weeks ago, we were discussing like, well, let's not have an agenda. Let's just kind of spitball it free form. And it does make it more natural because you don't have a rehearsed answer. You're answering off the cuff. And the other thing is reminding them that they're not, like, we always, as much as we can, we'll always do a 2-camera setup. And I'm sure it's the same for you. And it's as much of a backup for, like, I can't tell you how many times, well, it hasn't been a lot, but there have been times where it's like one camera was just out of focus, like the whole interview for whatever reason. They moved, like they got up, they shifted their weight or something happened, or I kicked to the camera, and it's like, oh, thank God we have the other angle. But them knowing that they don't have to look into a lens and deliver, like, and it's funny here, I got my iPhone, so I'm looking at this lens, but I have to look at you down here because I can't have it. But I mean,
I'm doing like the same thing.
Yeah, just that ability to look into a lens and deliver is such a skill. We rarely use it, but sometimes we have a teleprompter, and like someone who's good at a teleprompter, it's amazing. But most people that have to try to talk to a camera it's a nightmare for them. They would rather go to war. They would rather do anything than do that. And so I try to remember that and be empathetic about these poor people who I'm there. So Trevor and I think our reputation is that like these guys they're cool, they're chill, they're not going to make you feel bad in any way. They're going to give you every opportunity to do. And I love it, man. It's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely in love with the process of meeting new people, but actually just capturing their story and then piecing the story together and sharing it with the world. You know, to me is just, it's that, like when I was saying when I was a kid, it's that emotional connection or reaction that people get from whatever story that you piece together. And even if you take it outside the bounds of what they anticipated it to be, even more so, they're like, I didn't even think you could have pieced that together like that. And it's coming with that shock and that awe of, it's like, that's really cool that you pieced that story together like that. Because a lot of times they're extremely nervous to talk to a camera because it's an inanimate object that they're just looking at and it just feels awkward. I've had some of the best public speakers that can deliver the most lights out performance in front of a crowd, but when you put them in front of the camera, they can't they can't get it together, and it's just weird. So I definitely relate to that, and I try to remember that when we're working with them, try to make them feel at ease, like, you're safe here, man. Like, just go ahead and just be you, and we're going to do our best to just capture who you are without all the fluff. But I know it's hard because you got the lights and you got the cameras and you got the mics, and you're like, okay.
Do you ever sometimes, are you interviewing someone and like, I'll just pretend here, and you ask them a question and their answer is something like this. They're like, well, well, I think the first time it occurred to me that, and it's like, I'm sitting there listening to that. I'm thinking, how many of these uhs do I have to remove in post? This is going to take a really long time, but you almost have to do that. You know, you kind of go in there, but I was going to ask you too, like, what is your, like when you're editing, when you've shot everything and you've got everything and you know where you're going, where do you begin on your timeline? What's step one for you?
So for me, like the process is I will listen to everything once, just to listen to what they say. I kind of, because I'm on the shoots primarily, I'm the one shooting it, so I already kind of know the story. I'm kind of piecing it together in my head. So I have the formula of like beginning, middle, end kind of process of like, oh, this would be a cool beginning piece, and then we'll go into the backstory, and then we'll go and try to wrap it up and tie everything together. For me, you know, honestly, where it starts is in the music. Like I try to like dial in like the sound bed of what it is that I'm doing, and then seeing how the story fits within the music that I selected for that story. And I'd say like 85-90% of the time I can like hit it out of the park. You know, there are times that I miss the mark, which sucks, but you know, for the most part, I think I've dialed that process in. And then I just, you know, I did recently have a shoot that we worked with a client. The person said after every single word. And it literally took me forever. I didn't have enough B-roll to cover everything up, you know, because I just couldn't switch cams. You know, it would be too jarring, and then you don't have enough B-roll to cover it up. And it's just like, what do I do here? Morph cut only works so well on some of those things where you can splice things in. But I know a lot of times when that happens, I let things breathe a lot. Like I'll find a space with breath to kind of like fill in that gap. And but yeah, man, it's tricky sometimes, especially when you have a client that doesn't know what they want to say and they say after every single thing, every single word. And that's what this lady did, and it was a rough edit. It took me a while to dial that in, but
And it's
we
not
got
like
it
you can
there.
tell them,
So.
yeah, it's not like you can say, hey, can you not say, you know, it's like
Right,
you can't just say that. Yeah,
you know,
dude.
yeah, those are rough, but you learn, and it teaches you a new skill set of how am I going to do this. You know, I try not to get upset or bothered by it. I kind of laugh at it primarily. I just kind of roll with the punches and know that this is going to be a tough edit. I just know it is. how am I going to get it to the end? You know, is basically how I think, to be kind of optimistic that it's going to work out, even when it sucks in the moment. Like you're like, this is going to be the death of me to piece this thing together.
Yeah.
So,
Dude,
yeah.
do you curate your music ahead of time, or like when you are going to sit down to edit, do you just start listening to music and just see what tickles your fancy?
Personal stuff that I do for myself, I will have a song that I found that I was like, I want to tell a story to that music because it impacted me so much. But for client work, it's mainly just like, this is kind of like corporate work type stuff that I'm doing for some of this stuff. So it's like, let me find a track that kind of fits that vibe. And then I'll just spend good 20, 30 minutes just finding audio and make it work. You know, find one that I like, that I think the story would fit nicely in, because I do have the story kind of in the back of my mind when I'm, you know, on these projects and I'm listening through it, because I do have the ability, because I have a producer there or somebody there, you know, interviewing them. So I'm able to kind of focus on, well, how am I going to tell this story, you know, which is helpful for me. It would be tough, but I have done it where I'm solo shooting and I'm like, okay, try to do my best to pay attention without focusing all the, you know, the lights and whistles that I got to do with the cameras and the audio. But yeah, so
Yeah, when I don't give them questions in advance and I'm just kind of you know how it is, like I always just start off with the most things I know I will never even use, but just to get them relaxed, like how'd you get into this? What's your background? You know, like where'd you grow up?
yeah,
And get them talking, and then as the conversation, and I just tell them, it's like, we're just going to talk, we're going to have a conversation, and then sometimes they'll throw me a curveball where it's like, oh, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. Tell me more about that, and it's like, and then there's the part of my editor brain that can go like, that was a great statement,
yeah,
somehow that's going to be in there. And then you just sort of let the story unfold. I'm really lucky that so I'm doing that, and then Trevor is running both the cameras, and Trevor's really good at, he can pay attention to what they're saying too. And then I try to make it a rule to, like, when I'm done, to say, Trevor, are you thinking of anything? Turn to him, and he'll
oh
always
yeah,
have some perfect question or something I missed, and I go, yeah, talk about you, or you mentioned this, and it's like, oh yes, thank you, and then I remind him, but look at me when you say that, because continuity, we don't want your eyes to suddenly be looking over
right,
here at who was over there.
yeah.
And
We do the same thing. Yeah,
yeah, it's funny how similar yeah, it's like videographers have a lot of similar experiences, and I think that's why I'm drawn to seeing, when I see your work, because it's like, I know what went into this. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like I can tell the effort, and then and just, there's just so many people like that I like to follow their stuff. And it's like you said, building a community, having a bunch of creatives that are, we're able to kind of just share that experience, because a lot of people don't know what it's like unless you know what it's like, and that's true of any vocation. So
all right. Well, I think we did a lot of shop talk, which is great, man. I love
yeah.
getting to know. I love getting to know your backstory of why you're passionate about what you create. I think maybe if you don't mind sharing a little bit, like your, if you are comfortable with it. I didn't ask you or prep you before. It was like, what's the personal side of David? Like what's like some things that you personally, like married, kids, faith, like those types of things. If you are comfortable with sharing, you could
Yeah,
tell me
sure,
no,
man.
and it's all
No,
good.
I'm fine with that. I'm happily married for 20 years to my wife, Bonnie. We've been married 20
Nice.
years. She's my second wife. I was married before. So, what did my dad tell me? He said, you know what a pessimist is, or he said, you know what a pessimist is? I said, oh, it's a glass half empty. He said, no, it's an optimist with experience. So that's kind of how I attribute, like, the first marriage was an experiencing gathering venture. And then the second marriage has been the one that's been awesome. And so, yeah, Bonnie and I have been married 20 years. We have a blended family. So I had a child in my first marriage. And
Hmm.
then she has two children she was never married, but she had two children by this guy. And they're my sons. Riley Russell, he's one. And then his brother, Cameron, they're actually twins. And
Oh
then my
wow.
daughter, Nora, who lives in Colorado. So three adult children. Dude, whenever I think about you being your age and having kids that young, I'm just like, whoa, dude, that's intense. because I'm you know, I'm only 6 years older than you, but my kids are already, you know, 27 and 28 respectively. The twins are 28. So I have that, and I love that. I love that part of my life. I have a little Chihuahua. You know,
Oh,
I
nice.
play. What's that?
I said nice,
Oh
man.
yes, I play music. I'm a bass player, so I play in not. I don't play out in bands or anything like that, but I have a little, you know, band that my wife sings in. We both play in this little band, and it's just a bunch of guys that and her that hang out and play songs, and it's kind of like it could be anything from Pink Floyd to REM to the Lumineers to the Beths or whatever, just more mellow music. I was in a more of a metal band for a while, and that kind of blew up, but we were playing like, you know, Iron Maiden and Rush and Judas Priest and Metallica, and I love playing bass. That's another part of me. My beliefs, you know, I mean, I grew up, my parents raised me in the Church of Christ, which was kind of a fundamentalist denomination where we didn't have musical instruments. That was our big thing. And like water
Right.
baptism was essential for salvation kind of thing. So I had a very Christian upbringing, you know, twice on Sundays, once on Wednesdays, my whole life pretty much. And then there's so much to that story. I don't want to get into it too heavy, but
Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, I walked away from it for a while. I really just left it all behind when I became an adult and then later I came back to it, not that denomination. I kind of
Mhm.
bounced around in different denominations, and I kind of landed where I am now, where I have some very, I would say, unorthodox views on certain doctrines that literally brand me as a heretic in most of Western Christian circles.
Yeah.
To me, they're over matters that really shouldn't even matter because they're things that no human could possibly know,
Right.
like the nature of Jesus. You know, like I don't believe in the Trinity, for example, but I don't think
Mhm.
that's a salvation issue, but the church does anyway. Heaven and hell and all that. But I'm a total Bible nerd. I mean, every Sunday I do a 2-hour Bible study that is just a very small group of people that we just read the scriptures and we just sort of nerd out on it. Like, what were these people think? What was life like then? And what does this mean? And we did it this morning. You know, we're going through First Kings right now, and we're
Oh,
kind of in
cool.
that section of where, you know, after David has died and Solomon has died, and now Rehoboam, his son, took over, and then it's just a string of bad luck kings on both the northern side of Israel and the southern side of Judah, and they're all fighting, and there's a civil war, and it's just we talk about this morning. It was like, you know, things haven't changed much. There's
Right.
still wars in the world, and everybody's coveting everybody's resources. It really hasn't
Right.
changed a lot.
Nothing
So
new under the sun, man.
nothing new
Nothing
under the
new.
sun. That's right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that side of me that's very important to me. And then, you know, my work is really, when you're self-employed, you're so sort of like constantly thinking about like, I got to pay the bills and I got to be working all the time. Recently, my stepfather passed away down in
Mm.
southern New Mexico. He'd been married to my mom for 33 years. Really a great man. And I spent about a week just doing a tribute video, like a
Oh,
slideshow montage of his life. I just published last night, and it's on my channel, my personal channel right now for my personal YouTube, a 2-hour interview with my dad. And I know your dad's
wow.
important to you. Your dad's probably watching. Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
But you know, my dad's important to me too. And so I interviewed him on his 80th birthday. It was 2.5 years ago, but I finally got around to it. But he talked about his life, and he talked about just growing up and his parents and his aunts and uncles. And it took me a while to gather the resources, like finding old photos of these people and then popping them in there, you know, like little pop-ups with their names of who he's talking about so people could see. Or if he talked about, like, he was recounting how his dad used to smoke, and he's like, he smoked Chesterfields. And so it's like going online and finding an old image of Chesterfield cigarettes and popping those up there.
That's
And
fun.
those kind of personal projects that I do just on my own for my own. I do a lot of interviews with just like random people. You could be an actor, it could be a woman from South Africa, it could be anything. I probably like you do. I mean, you do way more, dude. I'm always blown away at how much you do. You do a ton of personal work. It's
Yeah.
insane. Even this, like the time you invest in this. So that's what I think drew me to just you inspire me because it's like I see how much you get done and it's like, dang, I gotta get more done. But that's kind of my personal story, I guess.
No, man. Thank you for sharing that, dude.
Yeah.
I just, I, I know that we talked a lot about shop, which is fun for me. I can nerd out on that all day, but I also want to get an opportunity to share a little bit about who you are as a person. So I appreciate you taking the time to share that with me and whoever watches this video down the road. That, I'm going to go check out your dad's video, man. That's going to be awesome.
He's a great storyteller. He's really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I kind of did that with my grandfather. He was sharing his story with the Smithsonian, so I was able to go and capture some stuff with him, telling his story about when he was a merchant marine, and like getting to hear that because I never really asked before when I was a kid, and having him like share a little bit of his journey as becoming a merchant marine and how he lied about his age and all those things to get in. And I just, during World War II, it was just so awesome to like listen and just see what time was like back then. I mean, that's why I love this aspect of capturing. And my grandfather, I would tell you, he was probably like the original YouTube guy, like sharing. He had like the old school camcorders, and he was always big about capturing photos of the grandkids and whatever. He captured and documented a lot. And I think that's where I get a lot of my passion for it too, because it's like a time capsule of like your journey through history of your life. And I can go back to my old videos and be like, oh, that's where I was during that time. So I think I got that from my grandfather because he was all about that. I do have an old like Hewitt and Bell. Um,
Bell and Howell.
Yeah, Bell and Howell. That's it. Projector.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have some reels that I have of my grandfather. I think my dad has some too. I want to get that thing working. I think I need a light bulb for it to get it fired up and running. But I want to check out what's on this footage, man. It's like been driving me nuts that I can't access it, So I want to see what was going on in my grandfather's life during that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, different generation, just even hear my dad recount the stories of his dad. And I just think, man, we've all just become a bunch of soft jellyfish in 2026. Like the men and women of the past are just a different caliber of human. I don't know if that's because it's funny. You and I are such a weird generation because we have one foot in the analog world and a foot in the digital world. And right. We remember what it was like to not have the kind of options of entertainment and distraction today. And we have them today. And it's just this asymptotic growth of the digital world that is just now with AI and all the possibilities that brings in. It's just so crazy to imagine. Like, I can't even imagine the world will be like in 50 years, Can't imagine. I can, but that's all I can do is imagine. It's gonna be crazy.
This reminds me. So my grandfather was telling me about a time he got off the boat and went on shore. I forget where he was at, one of the ports he was at. He said he smuggled 2 frozen turkeys from the mess dining area and took him and his boys out on the town and used these 2 frozen turkeys as payment to these establishments at a pub they went to, where they were able to like drink and, have a good time with 2 frozen turkeys. I was like, there's no way I can show up someplace with 2 frozen turkeys and, treat my boys to a night out or whatever. Maybe in certain places, but I don't know, man, if it's but yeah, I cracked up when I heard that story. I was like, holy cow, it's just different times back then, and like you said, they were tough. Like, I think part of my grandfather's story is he's from Chicken, Alaska. That's where he's from. And him and his sister, and I may get the story, mixed up, and my dad will probably correct me, but he and his sister traveled from Alaska, like Chicken, Alaska, all the way to like San Francisco alone, and at like 13 years old or something like that. And I'm just like imagining back then what it was like for a 13-year-old to travel from Alaska. It's a pain traveling with 2 small kids just on the comforts that we have now. I couldn't even imagine, like, at that age, them traveling across country like that just blows me away. But like you said, we're soft jellyfish now, man. They just grew up different back then. So
yeah, man.
we're tough in our own right, right?
Yeah, you know,
Just
Gen X is its own special breed of, you know,
yeah.
whatever we are, you know.
All right, man. Well, I think yeah, how long? I think we've been on for like
Dang,
an
it's been
hour
an
or
hour.
something.
Yeah. You still got to cover your stats, right? Are you going to do that?
I don't know if I'm gonna do that. I might do that. Maybe not, man. I think I'm gonna just keep this as what it is, and I'll figure out the stats thing different time. Maybe I'm liking this kind of process and have this as a one-off, and then maybe do it again. And would hope that we could do it again too. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate your time, man, and coming on and being the first guest on the Humble Dose and reaching out and connecting to me. You know, it's been awesome, dude. I've been admiring your work and appreciate you, and thank you for being a supporter too. You've hopped onto my lives, you've commented on a lot of my videos, so having that support means a lot, dude, and I appreciate you. So
Well, it's very
thanks for
mutual.
being here.
Thank you for having me on, man. It's an honor to be guest number one, and I know you're going to
Yes.
have a lot more. So,
Wow, we'll see, man. We'll see. I'll be happy with one. I'm grateful. So,
and people
yeah.
watching, like and subscribe, share this video. Jason's going for 1,000 subscribers. He's going to hit it this
Right.
year. So
I did
you're
not
so
pay you to
close.
say that, but
No, this was not a paid endorsement.
no. All right, David. Thank you so much, man. And blessings to you and your family. And thank you for your time, dude.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yep. We'll catch you later. And on
All right,
that,
man. Later.
I'll see you on the next one. Yeah.